All right. All right. Welcome back. It's episode 3, week 3 of the NFL just concluded. Today we're talking NFL. We're going to go into the Thursday night game at the end of it, and then we'll give a little update on the playoffs for the MLB, NBA, and who won the NHL Stanley Cup. Today we have a guest. His name is Parker. He's a ex-high school quarterback. He knows a lot about football. Unfortunately, he is a Patriots fan, but maybe we can get that to change sometime. Let's start
thanks for
off.
having me on.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so Falcons blew another lead, this time to the Bears. Last week to the Cowboys, it was bad. But in a way, understandable. I mean, it was the Falcons. But it was also crazy at the end of the game with the onside kick. But, I mean, this week to the Bears, and Trubisky played bad too. They had Nick Foles come in and beat them. I mean, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Nick Foles does another Nick Foles thing to me. He comes in clutches it. Now, Atlanta gave that game away. They did another kind of the same way I'm saying Nick Foles does Nick Foles stuff. Atlanta kind of just did another Atlanta thing. Nick Foles came in and he threw for 3 touchdowns and 188 yards and not a lot of time. And honestly, that one interception he had could have, it was almost a touchdown as well. So he almost threw 4 touchdowns in the matter of, just a few minutes, really. Great play by Nick Foles.
Because he came in the 4th or in the 3rd. I don't remember exactly when. But
I want to say late 4th. Or sorry, early 4th.
Late 3rd, early 4th. Okay.
Somewhere in between.
And in Chicago, Matt Nagy came out and said he's going to start next week versus the Colts at home. Bears are 3-0. They are, in my opinion, the worst 3-0 team. And the Falcons are, I want to say the second, maybe third best 0-3 team, but at this point, that defense, Dan Quinn's defense is looking terrible. Obviously we have the Texans. They're the best 0-3 team. Probably the Vikings number 2. After that, I wanted to put the Falcons, but I don't know. They look terrible. That defense is horrible. Their offense looks good, even with Julio, not even doing much or even playing as in this last week. But
the highlight of an 0-3 team is you're putting up a ton of points. So if you can figure out that defense, that offense is putting up a ton of points. Calvin Ridley's looking like an absolute stud, and the offense is going to always put up at least 21, 28 points a game. Now you just need that defense to follow behind.
The Falcons have 2 number 1 receivers in Julio and Calvin Ridley, and then they have an emerging star in Russell Gage, who's, right now he's still, I'm going to say, a number 3 receiver, but who's to say he can't be a number 2? And on the defense, it's not like they're bad. They have Dante Fowler. They have Keanu Neal. They have their rookie cornerback, Isaiah Oliver. He's been struggling, but they have pieces. And Dan Quinn's been there for a while that he has the pieces that he wants. It's not like the case we had in Detroit the past few years with Matt Patricia still trying to get his talent in for his defense.
Sure.
Dan Quinn's been here for a while. He has the players he needs. He has the players he wants. It's just a matter of fact of executing, and they're not getting it done at all on that side of the ball.
It comes to a point in time when you say a clutch factor, I guess. When the narrative behind Nick Foles is he's always going to come back and he's going to play really well for, quote unquote backup. And you saw him do it in the Super Bowl. You saw him do it in you see him do it all the time. Philadelphia. And he comes in this game and he throws a touchdown. The score's getting a little closer. He throws his second touchdown. The score's getting a little closer. And everyone in their mind is having the narrative, man, is Nick Foles really about to do it again? Offense and defense. Chicago was like rolling. They're like, you know what? That entire playing staff, that entire coaching staff, the entire players, everyone on the field, on both sides of the ball are going, man, is Nick Foles about to do this again? And I think that mindset is Atlanta already knowing we've blown 3 games in a row. Or sorry, 2 games in a row. That was the 3rd one. We've blown 2 games in a row. And now that narrative is we're blowing games and someone that's a clutch and, he comes in the clutch. he
Yeah,
comes in,
yeah.
man, that entire field is going, oh my God, Nick Foles is about to do it again.
And I wonder if that's what fuels Nick Foles, because when he was on the Jags, he wasn't seen as the underdog coming in. He was seen as, hey, I'm an 84 million man. I'm the number one guy now. And I mean, he did break his collarbone 11 plays into the season, and that kind of sucked. But I mean, even coming in after Minshew Mania, I guess you could say he kind of was an underdog, but still, they started him as soon as they could. So maybe that underdog fuels Nick Foles. And I'm looking at the rest of the Bears season. Okay, obviously they're done with Trubisky. It's over for the Trubisky era in Chicago has ended. Nick Foles era there, I want to say, is just starting, because he's not the long-term answer. They know that, we know that, but I think he'll start the rest of the games this year, unless he gets hurt. And I want to say he'll start next year with a rookie behind him. I mean, it kind of, in a way, Chicago's not winning the Super Bowl. They're probably not finishing with a winning record. Yeah, they have a good defense and they have a good coaching staff, but they're not going to finish with a winning record. And it sucks for Chicago fans that they've started 3-0 when everyone knows they're not making the playoffs, even in an expanded playoff. Their draft pick, because of these 3 games, is going to be a lot higher or a lot lower than what they should be getting. They're probably going to have to trade up for a quarterback, and I have my eye on Trey Lance out of North Dakota State and Josh Fields out of Oklahoma, or Ohio State, not Oklahoma. But yeah, they're probably going to get a first-round quarterback, and they're probably going to overpay just like they did for Trubisky. But you kind of have to in this situation, so it sucks for them.
I tell you what, it is that is a good dilemma, but a good thing to have when you're having your backup QB have to come in for your first round draft pick QB who you thought was going to be a franchise QB. A positive is you're having to replace him and have to bring him into the game, and you're 3-0 still. So like if they're looking at this season as a positive and they're really trying to make the playoffs and they believe that's something they can do versus trying to get draft picks, that is a great problem to have, I guess, is debating between the QBs, but you're still 3-0. You're still undefeated.
When you look at it as a 3-0, I want to know when the last time this happened, when a 3-0 team benched their starting quarterback. He didn't get hurt.
I'm not sure.
Him. And it's going to be interesting to watch. What if Nick Foles does capture some magic? What if he goes on a tear the rest of the season? I don't know, maybe finish 10-6. I'm not convinced it's going to happen. I think he'll, decrease the play of his game. They might even have to start Trubisky towards the end of the year just because. It's Foles. We never know what he's going to do.
Okay, going down. Next week they play Indianapolis, or this coming up week on Sunday, I believe noon. They're playing Indianapolis. To me, I still think that's a close game that Bears are going to come out on top. They're going out of this week 4-0.
Whoa. What are the Colts at? 2-1 right now? Phillip Rivers starting to sling that thing. I put my faith in the Colts. I think Foles maybe, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I know the Colts don't really have a great secondary, but I'm not with it. And with Tariq Cohen maybe even torn his ACL this past weekend, their running game's going to have to lean on one guy, maybe the backup too. It's not looking good for David Montgomery and Nick Foles, that offense. But let's move on. Bears aren't making the playoffs anyways. Let's talk about the team that is the Buffalo Bills, another 3-0 team. In the past few years, they've been a defensive team. They've always had a stout defense, defensive coaching. They have, in my opinion, a top 3 coaching staff in the league. But this year, the offense, they've scored 93 points in 3 games so far. That ranks 3rd behind the Packers and Seahawks. And Josh Allen still looks amazing this year. He's throwing the ball like crazy. He's running that offense. Stephon Diggs looks good. Are they an offensive team this year?
Josh Allen is playing great football at the start of this year. You do have to take in consideration Buffalo, for some reason, starts off every year they play really well. I believe last year they were 3-0 as well coming out of the gate. And it kind of deteriorated from there. But the difference is Josh Allen is not only kind of playing his scrappy run and throw game. He's sitting in the pocket and slinging the thing right now. This man is thrown for, I believe, over 300 yards a game, and is playing great football. Granted, they towards the back half of that game, their offense kind of slowed down, and they allowed the Rams to kind of come back, and it ended up being a really close game. And then there's a questionable call at the end for the pass interference that allows them to have that first down, and he throws that touchdown and they win the game. But
yeah,
as far as, like you're saying, they're a defensive team, and then now their offense is starting to look like they're picking up a little bit, and they're actually bringing some things together, as well as that Stephon Diggs piece that they were missing last year. Man, Buffalo's looking like a team that is a playoff contender.
and their defense. I mean, obviously we know how good the offense has been this season, and their defense, on the other hand, they haven't been as we would have thought. Tremaine Edmonds is a monster. Tre'Davious White, crazy good. And they have a young guy in Ed Oliver. Their D-line's still good. They're just not, I wouldn't say executing. They're not playing real well. I want to say they will. I think because of the, Corona in the offseason, maybe those guys didn't really get to have all that, communication as they would have. I mean, it's not like they have a ton of new guys, so I expect them to pick it up real fast. They are traveling to Vegas this week. That's going to be an interesting one to watch because Vegas, I mean, they're 2-1. They came back against Carolina. They beat the Saints on Monday night. They did just lose to the Patriots, but I mean, it's Patriots. No matter what happens, they're greatly coached. But that Bills and Raiders game, I have the Bills winning it, but I could see, I mean, maybe another situation like we just had with the Rams. Bills get off to a hot start. John Gruden and company, kind of storm back at the end without defense is still figuring things out for Buffalo.
Sure. Yeah, and honestly, I believe that between week 3 and this next week for the Bills is going to really determine how everyone feels about them. We could talk about Josh Allen throwing 300, 400, and 300 again in the first 3 weeks. But the first 2 were against New York and Miami, who are pretty questionable teams. Sorry, the Jets.
1-6 or 1-5 combined.
Right. Now doing it against the Rams, little better. I believe the Rams are a solid mid-tier team right now.
They were picking on Ramsey that game too.
Right. And then next week you got Vegas, who Gruden is a coach that's going to scheme well, and the Raiders aren't looking terrible this year. Like you said, they're playing good football as well. So I believe this 3 and 4 week are going to really determine who the Bills are this 2020 season.
Yeah, and the Bills are always exciting for me to watch. I think in the past, you're correct whenever you said they start hot. I want to say last week 4, they had the Patriots. I mean, if they could have won that game, that season I think would have been completely different. I mean, they lost, because I think they're just cursed when they play the Patriots. When they play Brady, I think they're cursed. But I'm excited to see them play the Patriots twice this year. No matter what the records are, I think both of those games are going to be fantastic. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. It looks like they went 3-0, lost to the Patriots, and then won 2 more games. They're 5-1 coming out of week 7.
Out of week 6
after a bye week.
Oh yeah, week 7. Yeah. Let's move on. Packers and Saints on that Sunday night game. Rodgers I don't think he's scared of Jordan Love. I don't think Jordan Love's going to even – I don't think Jordan Love will play a snap not a meaningful snap for the Packers in his career. I think Rodgers plays
while Rodgers is still there?
I don't think he'll play it ever. I think it'll be a Brady and, Ryan Mallett situation. Or name any Patriots backup they drafted. I don't think Love will play it. It could be. I don't think Jordan Love's going to be a Garoppolo. I think he might be a Trubisky. But yeah, I think Rodgers plays good for another 3 or 4 years. Love gets traded to a team that really needs a quarterback. He comes in, everyone thinks he's going to do good. Maybe think of like Brock Osweiler.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so to me, everyone's saying, these older generation QBs that they're all kind of around the same class, same age, are all starting to deteriorate. To me, you can put Breeze in that category. You can put Brady in that category.
And we'll talk about that Saints offense. Category.
But to me, Rodgers, he looks like he can sling it just as well as he was a few years ago. He doesn't look
Yeah,
any different to me than he has the past few years. He almost is playing better football at the start of this season.
I mean, I'm watching that Sunday night game, and there was one play, I believe in the third quarter, they cut to Rodgers. I think the Saints were on offense, and they cut to Rodgers. He was smiling. And I'm sitting there thinking, the Packers are going to win this game. I mean, and it wasn't a bad game. It wasn't far or anything. And it's just Rodgers is smiling right now. He knows. He's like, look, Saints can do whatever on offense. We're going to score whenever we're on offense.
Here's a big takeaway is you're playing great football. You're putting up 37 points against the Saints, and that's all with an injured Davante Adams.
True.
When that man comes back later on in the season, Green Bay is going to look like a scary team.
They really are. And I mean, they have a good O-line. Do you think Lazard is a wide receiver too? I mean, he played good Sunday.
In this offense, when Davante Adams is healthy, 100% he's wide receiver too. I think in 50% of the offenses in the NFL currently, he could be a receiver one.
You think? Okay. Because I want to say he was an undrafted guy, and he was on Jacksonville's practice squad, and then the Packers picked him up. And I mean, he's shown some brilliance last year and this year. I mean, do you think he's taken that next step to be a solid number 2 receiver?
To me, he seems to have sure hands for the film I've seen. Now, granted, it is only about 3 weeks worth of play. That's not a lot of film. He looks to have great hands, are pretty solid, secure hands. And to me, some of the routes he was running were really, really great routes. Now, one thing that's a little concerning as far as calling him a receiver one or not is his top end speed. I don't know if you saw the play where it was a larger throw. He had run a great route and beat his man, and he gets caught on like the 5-yard line.
I did.
He got ran down, and he looked rather slow. He almost, to me, looked like a tight end running out there versus a receiver. One thing to knock him on would probably be top end speed, potentially on that play. But, from everything else, I don't see him absolutely burning people either.
Yeah, I want to say that was the 72-yard catch he had coming out of halftime. I want to say that's what that was. And, I mean, you don't need that top-tier speed, but it would help. He could have been tired. I mean, I can't even name the Packers' second receiver. Maybe, Marquez Valdes-Scantling maybe. But did you see the graphic? Rodgers has thrown 2 touchdowns to a first-round pick. Both of them were Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah, I believe that's kind of why he may have shown some frustration after the draft, and why other people have shown some frustration after the draft. And it was because they've done nothing but draft just about opposite of what you would think they would, to try and give him some pieces to throw to even more. First round receivers to throw to, and he hasn't done that in his entire career. In fact, like you were saying, he's had 2 touchdowns to a first-round draft pick in their Mercedes Lewis, his tight end, and I believe that's this year alone.
One of those touchdowns, was Sunday.
Right. So the man is a franchise QB, and you're not building an offense around him, to suit it. You're not drafting as if he is that.
And I mean, they passed up on in the draft. They passed up on T. Higgins. They passed up on Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, they could have traded up, a few picks to pick maybe Justin Jefferson or Brandon Ayuk, who got picked right in front of them. And who's to say they weren't, going to get one of those receivers if they fell? But, I mean, the fact that they didn't get a receiver in that first round is just crazy. And the fact that Rodgers is doing what he's doing right now, I mean, it's crazy to me. And if they don't make a move, at least in this offseason, to address that second receiver spot, it's going to be – I don't even know if Rodgers is going to play there after another year. He might want to be released. I mean, I know he's doing good. I know he loves Green Bay. I mean, everyone loves them or loves him. But, I mean, to be a guy like that a future Hall of Famer, and to not have, a good wide receiver corps, even tight end corps at that point, it's got to be frustrating. And, he's shown his frustration a lot.
Yeah, and to me, it's going back to the Jordan Love pick. You pick a QB in the first round when he's looking like, and he has shown no other reason for anyone to believe that he can play for another 4 years.
Yeah, his contract, he has another 4 years on his contract. Yeah, right. He's been hurt, he's been hurt in the past, but it's not, we've seen him come back from fine. It's not like, oh, if he gets hurt again, what are we going to do? It's, okay, we'll have someone else play and then we'll be fine. Moving on to the Saints don't look like a good team. I'm going to be straight up with it. They don't look very good. Obviously, Camara, he's crazy good. His grill is flashier than him that night. But the rest of the Saints, even with Michael Thomas, the defense looks poor. The offense looks boring. I could tell you what they're going to do every play. If they're either going to run it with Latavius Murray or throw a screen. Michael Thomas wasn't in there, but he doesn't run deep routes down the field. Emmanuel Sanders wasn't a factor. Traquan Smith didn't do very much on Sunday. They look depleted almost. And I'm curious to see what they do to change that.
Yeah, they look like a team that is definitely missing that receiver one piece. I didn't realize Michael Thomas had that big of effect on the offense. But you really get to see it from these past 2 weeks where they seem to have struggled a little bit on offense. And obviously, like you're saying, Kamara is, top tier, arguably the best well-rounded running back in the league.
Correct.
As far as catching, as far as everything goes. Best well-rounded running back in the league. But with that being said, I don't know if you saw the stat during that game they pulled up. That's just how their offense has been for the past 5, if not other years, because they love that dink and dunk and give the ball to the receivers and let them do all the work. Give the ball to the running backs, let them do all the work. It's just a matter of if that ends up executing as far as the receivers go, or like in this game, you dink and dunk to Kamara and he ends up, having,
179 or something.
Insane amount of yards on both ends of the ball. It's crazy.
It's watching that game. I'm like, they're not throwing it downfield. Packers can put 7 or 8 in the box every play and be fine. And they have they have a good secondary, Jair Alexander and everything. But you knew they were throwing a screen or they're running the ball. And the Packers didn't have Kenny Clark, so it was good to run the ball. But they ran. They were very predictable, at least Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things I kind of take away from that is, Taysom Hill, he brings in a whole new package that you can use and run, and he got his big old contract over the, past off season and stuff. But that late in the game, trying to do some flashy plays to me is not exactly when you give that play call, and he ends up fumbling, and that's the turn of that game. They arguably could have won that game without the fumble.
They stopped the Packers on 4th down on the Saints 45 or something, and then they take Breeze out of the game. Your Hall of Fame quarterback. You put in Taysom Hill. I know it's worked in the past, but you put in Taysom Hill and he fumbles, and the game was over at that point.
Right. Yeah, and to me, it's I love that call early on in the game, trying to get the offense going, trying to get some excitement in the game and stuff.
Yeah.
But late in time when there needs to be clutch plays, put it in your Hall of Fame QB who has done it time and time again.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to the MVP race. I have my top 5, who I think, obviously, look, Russell Wilson, he keeps impressing, and I think he's going to keep impressing us this season. He's always found a way to win games on that Seahawks team, and he's going to do it this season. And they might not even be the best team, but the fact that they have Russell Wilson at QB right now, they're playing like the best team. And I don't think anyone in the NFL can stop them right now the way Russ is playing. I'd love to see them in Chiefs play. That might be a 2018 Monday night game like the Rams and Chiefs had. That would just I want to see Russell Wilson play every single week. I don't care who else is on TV. I don't care who the Seahawks play. He's must watch right now.
Russell Wilson is on a tear, and you know what? He's looking better than he even has in past years, and he should have arguably been in the race for MVP almost every year he's been in the league. He plays
Correct.
great, solid football every year, and he's overlooked. This year, he's playing even better almost, and people are finally starting to pay attention to him and go, all right, Russell Wilson, let's put him in the conversation. But is he going to be overlooked again? Is that just who he's going to be? He's going to be a outstanding QB for the entire season and still get overlooked for that MVP?
So I don't think this season he will be overlooked. I mean, it's so funny to see, like, because I've been saying it the past 4 years, he's always been my MVP, except maybe that 2 years ago, Mahomes. But Russell Wilson has always been that MVP for me. He's the most valuable player for any team to the Seahawks. And yeah, I think he's always been in the race, but he's always been third, I want to say. Last year, you had McCaffrey, you had Lamar Jackson. The year before, you had Mahomes, you had who's the other guy that year? Was it Saquon? He had Saquon, maybe.
Yeah, it might have been
Saquon. Probably another quarterback too. It's just that he's always been, yeah, he's really good, but he's not doing
someone that has just flashy play the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a knock on McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
They're good, but it's just Russell Wilson has been overlooked each season. I don't think they can do that this year, and I don't think they will. I mean, the media, the announcers, the coaches, opposing coaches, everyone has seen what he's been doing, and I think even at this point, he could play mediocre the rest of the year, and I think he'll win. I don't think Rodgers is, the next guy up, but just the way Russell's playing right now, if the Seahawks keep winning, Russell Wilson will win MVP.
That kind of brings you to the, sometimes it's not flashy play, but he's consistent. He's so consistent. He brings you the same quarterback play game in and game out every time. And it kind of brings up that question in their prime. So let's not say like, Brady or Breeze currently, but in their prime, if you had a team that needed a fourth quarter comeback, you needed someone to, come back and win the game, just as if Russell Wilson did this past week against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Who do you choose? Do you choose Brady?
Russell
do you
Wilson.
Choose Breeze? Do you choose Wilson? Do you choose Rodgers? Because
I would. You choose Houdini. He can't be stopped.
And I don't hate that pick. I don't, because he's so consistent. The man just produces always.
He's like Mike Trout. Mike Trout consistently hits 300. He hits 30 home runs. He gets 15 steals. He's consistent on defense, and he plays for the Angels. And him playing for the Angels is like Russell Wilson playing for Seattle. And, not that the Angels are – not that Seattle's bad like the Angels. It's just he's always getting overlooked. And I don't know if that's because he's in Seattle. I mean, if he was on a New York team or an LA team, maybe he is winning the MVP these past 3 years. Maybe he is one of the best players in NFL history, known to everyone. But he is – it's just exciting to watch him play. Now, So my top five – or what were you going to say?
I was just going to talk about his upcoming schedule because, I mean, he's beaten Miami. They're beating Minnesota, arguably beaten Arizona. San Francisco will still potentially be the 39ers. They've had so many injuries. There's a chance they're going 7-0 to start the season, and then Buffalo, they who knows how they're playing by then. I mean, the Seattle team with this upcoming schedule and how they're playing, I just don't see them losing any of these upcoming games.
Russell Wilson will find a way to make them win. That's what's going to happen. And it's what he's been doing. It's what he's going to keep doing. And, hopefully we see him for another 10 years in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's kind of a weird thing because you think Seattle, you think, wow, that crazy defense. They fly around the ball. I can't remember their nickname off the top of my head for some reason.
The Legion of Boom. At least
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And this year they're averaging 29 points a game allowed, I believe, somewhere around there, which is
yeah.
kind of
And
closer to the shootouts.
yeah, and they have been injured. You know, that secondary obviously is not the same as it was, but you would think with the addition of Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams that they would be a lot better. And like another thing, it could be like the Bills defense where they're not quite communicating as well as they should be because there's a lack of the off season.
Sure, yeah.
But they also their secondary has been ravaged by injuries. And once they start to get people back, I mean, I think their defense will start holding the people under maybe 25 points a game. Let the Seahawks run the ball a little bit more. And I think that's why we'll see less Russell Wilson as the season goes on. But because of this start, he's MVP.
Yeah.
So moving on to the MVP race. So I have number 1, obviously Russell Wilson. Number 2, I got Rodgers. Number 3, I have Mahomes. Number 4, I have Josh Allen. And then I had Kyler Murray in as number 5, but I'm sliding Lamar Jackson in there. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens didn't play very good Monday. That doesn't mean Lamar Jackson's not very good. But it's just I don't think Kyler Murray's quite ready yet. I mean, he threw 3 picks, and they lost to the Lions, I believe, at home. It just wasn't his best game in his sophomore or in his career, and he's only a sophomore, nothing to worry about, you know. But he did drop out of my top 5. How would you rank them?
It's funny. Actually, my top 4 are the exact same. I have Wilson, Rodgers, Mahomes, and Allen all in that exact same order. After this next week, I kind of have a hot take. I have Kamara as number 5. If he keeps up the season he's having, I have a running back potentially in the argument at least.
I mean, yeah, he definitely is. This at least on Sunday, he was like McCaffrey last season. He was doing everything for that offense. He was the life of it. And yeah, it'll be hard to see. I can't see him still being that whenever they get Michael Thomas back.
Sure.
But that's a good prediction. I mean, I think he actually might finish top 5 in the MVP race. Because I mean, we saw McCaffrey get second last year, and obviously Kamara, I don't think he'll do that when Michael Thomas comes back, but I could see him in the top 5 because, I mean, I don't think he'll beat out a quarterback. That's just how the NFL is.
Sure,
but, yeah, he could be that number 5, maybe even number 4 guy. And, I really like that pick there.
Yeah, and really it's going to depend on, like you said, Michael Thomas, and if he comes back strong, because I believe he's now practicing and he's potentially going to play this upcoming weekend, if not the next week. But
he's been pushing it, yeah.
Is he going to push it? Is he going to, not come back? Kind of how Julio came back week 2, and now week 3 he had the hamstring injury again. So he kind of pushed himself. He came back a little too early, and he wasn't really himself. If Michael Thomas does that, maybe Kamara continues to have the season he's having. But I do agree with you there as far as if a healthy Michael Thomas is in the lineup, he's not going to get quite as much production as he is currently because they're having to rely on him, quite frankly, right now.
And he won't, but I think they should. I think he should. I think they should give him the ball as much as possible. I mean, so like on Sunday, we all saw Latavius Murray he was the running back. He was the starting running back, basically.
Correct. He did start. He played every first down, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't have a problem with that, though, because they have one of the best 1-2 running backs in the league. Latavius Murray was a starter in Oakland a few years ago. He's a good back if you can run him between the tackles and then throw Kamara in there every once in a while with fresh legs, why not?
Yeah, you keep him fresh. That's crazy.
And I don't know how many plays Kamara had, but I mean, to throw up, I want to say 179 yards from scrimmage as arguably a backup that game is just crazy. And if they can keep that formula going, I say do it. I mean, Michael Thomas would be a good decoy if you can just keep giving the ball to Kamara.
I want to say Kamara is top 5, if not top 10, at receiving yards this season so far.
I
Now,
wouldn't be surprised.
now last game obviously was a big help, but he's always someone that's going to catch passes and produce as far as that goes for that team.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Who's leading in receiving? Let me see if I can find it.
He had
Yeah, he's number 5 right now. So you have Hopkins, Ridley, Metcalf, Diggs, and then Kamara at number 5. So
yeah, and that doesn't
that's
surprise me at all.
no. I mean this last week, yeah, like you said, helped a lot. But I can see him finishing in top 10
Yeah. As a running
as the
back
season
is kind of a
progresses.
crazy stat.
Yeah, and I mean McCaffrey was probably similar last year. I don't recall the numbers, but I mean he could have easily been top 10. Let's move on to Thursday night football. Broncos at Jets. Off the bat, who do you have winning?
This is a weird one for me. I just have a hard time ever choosing the Jets. And just off of that, I have Broncos winning this game. Man, Jets look like they could have the dilemma of talking about trying to get Tua with the first pick. I think they are arguably the worst
Not
team.
Tua, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, I'm going back to the tanking for Tua from last year.
Tanking for
Yeah,
Trevor
thank you.
this year.
Yeah. I think that they're going to be that team that's going to have that decision on whether they think he's that franchise quarterback for them.
Yeah, and it's not the same as the Josh Rosen situation in Arizona, but it's similar. I mean, Darnold hasn't played great, but it isn't his fault. I mean, so he had his rookie year. Rookies are rookies, right? He goes to a terrible Jets team. And then his next year, they bring in Adam Gase. He gets mono. He's learning a new offense, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't play great either. Year 3, sure. Adam Gase is a terrible head coach. I'll say it now. He might be a good QB guru, but for the whole team, he's bad. And I think that's having an effect on Darnold. I don't think Darnold's a bad quarterback, but I think he's been playing less than mediocre, I'll say. I have the Broncos as well. It's tough for me, especially whenever they're starting their third-string quarterback, Brett Ripien or Ripien. I don't know how to say it. But, I mean, starting a third-stringer in his sophomore year after, I want to say his first snaps in the NFL were last week. So it's definitely going to be a weird game to watch. I think Broncos come away with the win, though. What I'm excited to see, and I know you're excited to see this too, is the Jets punting the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a longtime friend of mine, Braden Mann. He was the first punter drafted in this past year's draft, and
Rightfully so.
And the Jets rave about him, and to me, he's the one of the upsides this year, and I know they're big. I believe first round draft pick of their left tackle,
lineman.
Mekhi Becton. He went down this past week. He went down with an injury. I'm not too sure on the severity of it. But the other highlight of their team so far, and only bright spot has been their punting. And they're going to have to punt, 4 or 5 times a game. So you've got to have someone solid that can kind of flip the field for you and give your defense some good field position.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been doing that, and he's had a lot of chances to showcase his talent, and he's definitely making the most of his opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm looking at it now. Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say in week 1, I'm looking at the Jets punting and stuff, and I'm looking at that that coverage team for the punting was so behind because his leg is strong, and I mean he can send it down the field as far as he wants to. It's far as getting a little bit of air under the ball and giving his his coverage team some time to run down the field and catch up to him, because to me the Gunners don't look too fast. They aren't getting down the field, they're not flying down the field, and they're averaging, I want to say, 15 to 20 yards a return. So I would believe it's going to be now talking, do we want to kick it out of bounds and risk, not kicking it quite as far because our coverage team isn't performing well, just as the rest of the
Yeah.
team is not performing well.
And it's definitely an underrated thing. Yeah, it's definitely special teams is underrated for NFL fans. NFL teams and coaches know how important it is, but for the fans, a lot of them don't. But yeah, that's definitely going to limit. I mean, it's going to limit the Jets even more. And if they can't go pick up some guys or figure out who they want in there, it's going to limit Braden Mann's at least his rookie year. Not to say it's going to hurt him in his future, but it will. In a way, it could help him if he does get to learn how to do more stuff with the ball and work on his pocket punting in game. It could help out, but I mean, it sucks because the Jets aren't even getting downfield a lot for him to have the situation to kick it, out of bounds within the 20. Because like you said, they're getting to return it a lot. So if he is going to have to kick it 50 yards and out of bounds every time, that might be the best option. Right now I'm looking at the Mekhi Becton injury. So he left with a shoulder injury in the second quarter. Adam Gase said he could play this week, but I mean, it is a Thursday game. I doubt he'll play. But yeah, they did avoid a serious injury with that one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but so Becton has been a bright spot. Their punter's been a bright spot, but their team's about to go 0-4, I think. If we're looking at, here's another thing to point out. Broncos signed Blake Bortles this past week. I doubt he'll play. I mean, he's a quarterback. I doubt he'll play this first week. They might put him in garbage time if they really need to. But that is something to watch out for. And all you fantasy guys, while Drew Lock is out, Blake Bortles might be a guy to pick up for a little bit.
It depends on how many teams are in the league.
That's a good point. But so let's look at the lines here. The Jets are 2-point favorites at -110, and the Broncos at +2, obviously at -110 too. Like I said, I take the Broncos in 2 points on that one. I think they'll win.
I just don't see any positives out of the Jets' play so far. There's just nothing special or significant that is telling me they're gonna win this game.
Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're both taking Broncos +2 or to win or lose by less than 2. And then in the money line we'll take them. So the over/under right now is set at 40.5. That'd be a 20 point game right there. Under all the way. I mean, the defenses aren't very. I mean, Broncos defense is not bad. I mean, they lost Von Miller. Makes them bad. AJ Boye, I want to say, still hurt. That's not good, but they do still have pieces. The Jets, on the other hand, they're not a good defense. They're better than the offense, but that's why I have the Broncos winning. I mean, it's a third-string quarterback going up against one of the worst defenses in the league. If it was a better defense, I think the Jets defense could get a few turnovers, help that offense out. But I'm definitely going on the under here. I say 17-10 game maybe. It's not looking very fun.
I can't argue it. When there's not a lot of positives for really both sides of the ball, you got to hammer the under just because there's not going to be as much going on.
Yeah, so. I mean they're not going to score, and their defense is bad, but a third-string quarterback in his second year, signed with Denver after going undrafted in 2019. Yeah, he was a standout at Boise State. I want to say he went 40-13 in 4 years there. But without the off season, I mean, it's always the rest of the season is gonna come back to this. Without a good off season, without preseason games, and then now you're starting a quarterback who didn't get to play in anything. Even against a bad Jets defense, I don't think he's gonna do very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it just strictly by how stats have gone by so far, each team has averaged about 12 to 15 points per game. The Broncos have allowed 23 points a game. The Jets have allowed 31 points a game. So, looking at it, those offenses are not scoring a lot of points. The defenses are revving up some, but you think the defense could, step up a little more against an offense that is underperforming. So it's gonna be somewhere around that 40 point. And I obviously Vegas knows what they're doing with determining the point differentials and stuff. But I still see the under hitting.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about this game. We could see someone come out of nowhere for this Jets defense. Don't expect it to happen. But I mean, maybe Quinnen Williams does good. But yeah, there's not much else to say about that game. Moving on to the other three main sports, because no one cares about soccer. The NBA playoffs started tonight. Lakers and Heat. I have Lakers winning that series in 7 games. They won tonight, but the Heat team is fun to watch. I'm not a basketball guy, but just quick, what are your thoughts on this finals?
Yeah, I believe you meant the NBA finals, not the playoffs started this week.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what? The Heat's a great solid team, and obviously they've shown that throughout the entire year, and now they're, obviously in the finals. They've made it to the, that whole series. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But to me, this Laker team is going to be hard to beat. They're really solid, and I think it's the Lakers series to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
If I'm predicting it, I'm saying Lakers in 6, and I would say
Lakers
even
6.
less than that. But I know how the NBA works, and I believe that they're going to try their best to stretch it to at least 6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, but yeah. Moving on, NHL, Game 6. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup Finals 2-0 in Game 6. They beat the Dallas Stars. They were the best team in the NHL last season. They got swept in the first round by an 8-seed Columbus Blue Jackets team. Good for Tampa Bay. If any of you saw that game, it was an interesting one. But yeah, not much to say. I know a lot of people aren't hockey fans down here. But yeah, great for Tampa Bay Lightning. The good news about this, not many people know. So Tampa Bay won NHL, right? Obviously the Buccaneers have a lot of hype in the NFL.
Is there more championship to come to Tampa Bay throughout the year?
The Rays just beat the Blue Jays in two-game sweep in the wild card round of the MLB playoffs. So Tampa Bay, they could have a 3, or I guess you could say sweep. They don't have a basketball team. But you could say they sweep.
I would believe that Tampa Bay could do what Boston's been doing for a while.
What's that?
Which is
just
sweeping? Winning championships all over the place. All of your teams in Boston have been great. Tampa Bay this year could be doing something similar to what Boston's been doing over and over again with New England, with the Red Sox, with the Celtics, with everybody. That all of those teams are solid.
The question is, will Tampa Bay keep it going? I mean, because like you said, Boston, Patriots obviously were consistently good. Celtics had down years, but they also had up years. Red Sox, same thing, down years and up years.
Sure.
But we all know the Red Sox, they're bad this year, but they'll bounce back at some point. The Celtics are good right now, and Patriots are the Patriots. Do you think Tampa Bay might be able to keep this going?
I believe that Tom Brady's starting to find his stride a little bit. I believe
True.
He's getting a little bit more of the signal calling, and he's getting a little bit more freedom now that he's not with Belichick, who has a pretty cutthroat militaristic type coaching style.
Correct.
If they continue with the path they're on, I believe that they have a shot. I wouldn't call anything quite just yet. I can't say I see them, beating some of the other teams that would be, in their way along the way, and especially Kansas City, because I have Kansas City going to the Super Bowl on that end. It's hard to not say that they couldn't, though. You see Tom Brady do it time in, time out. And I believe that he was a crucial part of that offense, for New England for a long time. So as far as, NFL goes, I could see Tampa Bay doing it. And I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if they're at least in the Super Bowl and having a go for it.
I mean, with the way the Saints look right now, Tampa Bay's in first in that division. And with the way the Saints look right now, Tampa Bay's probably third, fourth best team in the division after the 49ers injuries. The Saints not looking very good. Tampa Bay starting to hit their stride. It's looking more likely that they'll be further in the playoffs than we thought. I mean, obviously that week one loss, but like we said, no preseason, limited off season, a ton of new pieces for Tampa Bay. It'll come to him, and it looks like it already has. And then on the baseball side, the Rays they were good last year. They were good the year before. They're starting to get good again. They obviously have one of the lowest combined salaries, but they're the number one seed in the American League, and they look like they'll be good for a few years. And this is hot take, maybe not even a take, maybe just more of a hopeful prediction. I'd like to see Tampa get a basketball team. I'd start watching NBA a little bit more. Tampa Bay could, I'm just going to throw it out there. Tampa Bay could start becoming kind of a sports powerhouse, just like up in Boston and New England area.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the Saints, the way they're playing, you see them, you see them kind of being held back a little bit, and the Buccaneers are ahead of them in as far as the NFC South goes. And then you're looking at the rest of the NFC. The Packers are someone that could potentially step in their way. Cowboys potentially are someone that could step in their way later on down the year. And then the one person, probably the NFC Championship, is the Seahawks. That's the big.
It's looking like a Packers Seahawks NFC Championship game right now. But I mean, like we said, anything could happen if the Bucs do hit their stride, But both the quarterbacks. If you look at those three quarterbacks, Brady, Rodgers, and Wilson, Brady is playing half as good as the other two right now. And it's not a knock on Brady. It's more to just say how good Rodgers and Wilson are playing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I say that as well. And that's why the Buccaneers look like they have some promise, but they'd have to go through Packers and Seahawks potentially. And that's where it gets to be a little more in question.
Yeah.
Honestly, a big thing, going back a little bit to the NHL stuff, a big thing is we just saw our first post-coronavirus or post-quarantine final of any sort, and it was actually without fans, which is very strange. It's the first championship ever without fans, and you see kind of a non-celebration in some ways with fans and stuff. It's very different. It's very different.
And for it being hockey, it's not as big of a deal as it is for basketball, because they don't have as much crowd interaction. But the players have said, like, whenever all this started and they were playing in the bubbles in Toronto and Edmonton, that it was weird having no fans. But I think after the bubble, and NBA players will probably say the same thing, I think they kind of got used to it. It does suck to win and not have that moment with the fans. Now, obviously, you could win the championship on the road, and it's not going to be there. But just to have that kind of being taken away from you a little bit has got to be weird.
Sure, and it's the first ever of its kind, you know? I mean, this is the first time we have not really had fans in stadiums
Yeah,
ever and so for it to be a final, even just for the viewers, it just looks very different, and it
yeah,
was interesting to see.
yeah. And basketball, they're going to be the same way now. MLB came out today, I believe. They're going to allow, I want to say, 11,000 fans up in Arlington at the World Series when it comes that time. Now that's not for another, 3.5 weeks. But they did come out and say they'll have 10,500 or 11,000 fans up in the Rangers' new ballpark. So and now it won't be the Rangers playing there. It will be two away teams. So yeah, it's still going to be weird not winning on your home field or even on your away field because the fans there most likely now it is a World Series, but even if you do have your fans flying in there, it's still only going to be 5,500 of them, give or take. So yeah, it'll still be weird even with some fans, I think, for the MLB players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so as
This
well.
is MLB is a tricky one this year because a lot of people, it doesn't really count. I mean, Clayton Kershaw came out and said, look, playing 7-inning doubleheaders isn't baseball. Extra innings starting with a guy in second, it's not baseball. 60 games, it's not baseball. And I don't know who else has said it, but he's definitely been one of the faces of the MLB, in the past 7-8 years. So for him saying that, and a lot of younger players probably thinking the same thing, baseball doesn't really count this year. But you can't take that away from the team that wins it all. So it's all very weird. We're all adjusting to it. But I will say next year, I think sports will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, a kind of a weird thing to think about coming up for football and kind of keep track of throughout this season is how many times is Joe Burrow going to be sacked this season? He's
He is
been
leading the
sacked.
league, right?
He's been sacked 13 times after 3 games, and 8
Oh, he's
this
tied
past
for
game.
second.
And he's on pace for just about a little under 75 sacks for this season. How many times can you get your franchise draft pick, number 1 draft pick QB sacked without kind of cringing every time it happens and hoping this man doesn't get injured? They've
Uh,
got to get him some protection and scheme some better things so he does not get sacked 8 times a game again.
yeah, that comes back to the off season. I'm just scared that if they can't build around Burrow, they're going to lose their franchise quarterback. I mean, he is pissed. The best word for it I can think of at just them losing and him knowing that. I mean, he knows they suck, but I don't. If they don't build around him, he'll definitely leave. But yeah, on the sack thing, I guess it's just going to come down to the teams they play. I mean, they will have to play. They'll face Myles Garrett another time. They still got to face the Ravens and the Steelers twice, I believe. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough season for Burrow over there or up there in Cincinnati. But hopefully next year. I mean, I like Burrow mentally. Obviously, physically he's gifted, but to me, he's one of the most mentally strong, I guess you could say. He's the best mentally fit quarterback in the recent years to me. He just oozes IQ and confidence, and I think he'll be upset with the Bengals real fast. But I think if he can come back next year with some confidence in his O-line and his defense, I think he'll be fine. I think he understands that they selected a quarterback without really a foundation to put him in, unlike the Cowboys with Prescott. So, yeah, it'll be a frustrating season for him. He will get sacked a lot more times, but
Yeah.
I think he'll come out of it stronger.
Sure. Yeah. I can see that. You just, want to hope and pray for that man to not get injured from any of the times he's going to get hit for the rest of the season, because it's looking like it's going to be close to 75 times.
I mean, yeah, and we can go back and we can look at the Colts whenever they drafted Andrew Luck. The Colts, they drafted Luck, and he was getting sacked ridiculous amount of times. And the Colts knew it, and they did something about it. They made a ton of changes and now they have arguably the best offensive line in the game. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Luck anymore, but they did notice Luck was getting hurt, and they tried to fix it. And it's interesting to see if the Bengals have success doing it, because I believe they will. It's just, will they be successful while doing so? But yeah, let's finish with these MLB playoffs, and then we'll let our viewers go. So Astros obviously cheated. Everyone knew it. They didn't get penalized as hard during the games this season. There's less games and no fans, but they just swept the Twins in a 3-game series. They move on to play the winner of the White Sox and A's, and honestly, I think they could win that series too. And they'll have to go on to play the Rays and then either the winner of the Yankees or Indians. Astros could get back to the World Series. Now, I don't think it'll happen, but I also didn't think they'd beat the Twins. And if they do end up getting back to the World Series, what's to say about the cheating scandal? I mean, they finished under 500, but when it came to the playoffs, they clutched up, So that'll be an interesting thing to watch for.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be something to watch, and I think they have a little bit of things to prove for themselves and to others that season wasn't a fluke, and they performed. If you go back and look at those stats, they performed better hitting away than they did home anyway. So some of that scrutiny that they're getting didn't really necessarily translate. Now, their numbers this year versus their numbers over the, cheating scandal years and stuff are a little lower, but like you're saying, they're still performing and they're still coming in clutch, and they're looking like they could be a contender to continue on through several more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Correa's letting people know after today's win of the Twins. But, yeah, if you're not a baseball fan but you're a sports fan, I say just keep a look at the Astros, because that's definitely a story to watch. Yeah, we're gonna finish off there. We're at about a little over an hour. I want to say it was a good episode. Definitely better than week 1 and 2. I kind of like the style we had today. I mean, thank you, Parker, for coming on. Really helping out the podcast here. And before we go, do you have anything else to say?
No, I could go on and on about different controversial things. If we wanted to talk about, Deshaun Watson versus Dak and who would you plug in as a better system QB and stuff. But no, I don't have anything more for this week. And, hopefully I can come on for future weeks, and we can continue to kind of roll off of this kind of just free flow, talk about each week, as we see fit. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time today. Hopefully the listeners did too, because I would love to have you on again. But yeah, that's going to be all for us this week. We'll look forward to getting another one out next Wednesday. And last thing I'm going to say is let Russ cook MVP 2020.
And the very last thing that I would like to add is let's bench Kellen Mond. Let's put all that hashtag out there, because I've been saying for 3 straight years that this man should not be the starting QB for Texas A&M. And he continues to win that job somehow. So hopefully that hashtag and trend can go around, and let's get enough people going to say that out there, so we could potentially see some Hayes King or maybe Calzada. I'd like to see someone else go in there and at least give it a shot, because they can go in there and fumble 3 times and lose a game. You can have anybody do that. So,
hopefully in the future we'll get a ex-A&M punter, current Jets punter, Braden Mann on the pod, and we'll have his thoughts on how it was playing with Kellen Mond. But yeah, that's it for week 3 of the NFL season. It's it for episode 3 of Zigzag Sports Podcast. It's a good one. We'll see y'all later.